This year in the National League, there's a realistic chance that a 90-win team will miss the postseason. The playoffs are more of a crapshoot than ever, with an 84-win team the year prior winning the National League pennant. Not every year is going to be as competitive as this year, and if we turn the clock back even just a couple of decades, you can find some pretty egregious teams that managed to sneak their way into a playoff berth. Now, I will say this, not counting the 2020 pandemic season, there has never been a losing team that has made the playoffs, and that's a good thing. But man, have we come close. The most famous team with a poor regular season record that snuck into the playoffs are the 2006 St. Louis Cardinals, who happened to win the frickin' World Series when they did it. They limped into the postseason at 83-78 and ended up winning the whole thing. Today, we're going to look at a division winner that was so tremendously underwhelming that I feel comfortable calling them the worst MLB team ever to make the playoffs. Today, we're discussing the 2005 San Diego Padres. Believe it or not, expectations were somewhat high in San Diego after an 87-win season in 2004. This only got them third place in the National League West Division, but it was also their first winning season in 7 years, dating back to their World Series appearance in 1998. In this window, the ace of the squad was young Jake Peavy, who maintained an MLB best 2.27 ERA from the season prior in a breakout campaign. He was actually the youngest pitcher since Dwight Gooden's magnificent 1985 to win an ERA title that young, doing so at just 23 years old.
Jake's pretty competitive.
Prior to the beginning of the regular season in 2005, the Padres inked Jake Peavy to a team-friendly 4-year extension worth $14.5 million, one of the best contracts signed in franchise history. I would love to see one MLB GM try and offer an ERA title winner $14 million, just to see what they would say. In 3 years' time, Jake Peavy would claim the pitching Triple Crown and an NL Cy Young victory. So not only did the Padres roster one of the best starting pitchers in the game, but one of the best relief pitchers as well, in future Hall of Fame closer Trevor Hoffman.
Hoppy, you're looking dynamite.
Digging your threads as well, my brother.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Dude, we're getting primed for Retro Night.
In 2004, Hoffman registered his 10th 30-save season in a dozen years as a big leaguer. Those two, combined with the efforts of the rest of the staff, put up the 5th best team ERA and 2nd best strikeout-to-walk ratio in all of baseball in 2004. As they had been for the past decade to that point, the team was led by manager Bruce Bochy. After a 91-win campaign in his sophomore year in 1996, Bochy would lead the Padres to 98 wins in the National League pennant in 1998. But Bochy's Padres were mired in a 5-year streak of losing records. That skid ended in 2004 as the team ushered in a new era with a new stadium. The pressure was on in 2005 to not only win, but return to the playoffs as well. In the mid-2000s, San Diego didn't have a ton of great hitters coming through the pipeline, but they did carve out a productive lineup through trades and free agent signings throughout the years. They orchestrated key swaps for players like Mark Loretta at second base and Ramon Hernandez behind the dish to lengthen their lineup. One of their newest acquisitions, Dave Roberts, would play center field every day atop the lineup, fresh off his heroics in the 2004 playoffs. Their best two hitters were acquired years prior, Brian Giles, taken from the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Ryan Klesko, traded for from the Atlanta Braves. This was the main identity of the Padres offense. Opening day got off to a rocky start, no pun intended, with the Padres down 4 runs in a matchup with Colorado at Coors Field. But a pair of home runs brought the Padres back in front late in the game, setting up Trevor Hoffman's first save opportunity of the year. But with 2 outs and a runner on in the 9th inning, the future Cooperstown closer coughed up a trio of hits, punctuated by an improbable walk-off home run by Clint Barmas to seal up a win for the Rockies. Things didn't really go according to plan that day, and that would be a consistent theme for the rest of the year. The Padres finished the first month of the season with a losing record, but quickly got up off the mat with 15 wins in 18 games to start the month of May. By month's end, they'd be 14 games over the 500 mark with a 3-game lead in the National League West Division. Their 22-6 record was the best of any team in baseball in May. In this month alone, they had 10 one-run victories, easily the most of any team as well. A key to that formula was a reliable bullpen, but we'll circle back on that later. Many of those narrow victories came in their aces starts. The Padres won in 9 of Jake Peavy's first 10 starts of the season, with Peavy pitching to a 2.37 ERA through the first 2 months of the season. But it became quickly apparent that, in the starting rotation, there wasn't much security behind him. Names like Brian Lawrence, Adam Eaton, and Tim Stauffer, as well as the rest of the non-Peavy Padres starters, combined for a 4.93 ERA at year's end, which would have been the 5th worst mark in MLB if Peavy wasn't around. His presence alone lifted them to 15th in the league. But just as the vibes of the Padres soared in May, they came crashing down just as quickly in June. San Diego lost 10 of their first 13 games, watching their record trickle back down towards 500. But even with this skid, their division lead barely took a hit, with most of the NL West division vastly underperforming alongside them. The main reason for this ebb and flow of the season so far was tons of unexpected regression, specifically in the lineup. Phil Nevin, who clubbed 26 home runs and received MVP votes in the season prior, hit for an OPS below 700 as the everyday first baseman on the team. He would quietly be traded to the Rangers in early July. Mark Loretta, the everyday second baseman who hit well over 300 in consecutive seasons before 2005, would suffer a sprained ligament in his left thumb that sidelined him for 6 weeks and sapped him of his power at the dish. Khalil Green, the National League Rookie of the Year runner-up in the season before, took a step back both offensively and defensively at shortstop. The former first-round pick did put up a 15 home run season in his sophomore campaign, one of only 5 primary shortstops with 30 home runs between the 2 seasons. When he wasn't manning shortstop, Khalil Green was the well-respected DJ of both the clubhouse and the stadium. Apparently, though, he did get his stadium speaker rights revoked when he played Trick Daddy's I'm a Thug over the loudspeakers for a little bit too long, and you can see why that is. While the infield faltered as a whole, the Padres sported one of the best outfields in baseball that year, top 4 in all of baseball by weighted runs created plus at year's end. 2 years after trading for him, Brian Giles put together not only his best season as a Padre, but arguably the best season of his entire underrated career. He finished with the most walks in baseball at 119, and he had the second best walk-to-strikeout ratio, trailing only Luis Castillo. He was one of only 6 qualified hitters in 2005 to hit over 300 and maintain an on-base percentage over 400. But outside of Giles, their most important hitter was easily leadoff center fielder Dave Roberts. Yes, Dave Roberts, the Dodgers manager. He set career highs in on-base percentage, slugging percentage, and OPS to go along with 23 stolen bases on the year, adding a much-needed dimension of speed to the Padres lineup. But even with all these new contributors in their offense, it would hardly be smooth sailing in July either. On their trips to the National League East and Central teams, the Padres got exposed badly. An 8-game losing streak paved the way for a dismal 8-18 month of July, with sweeps at the hands of the New York Mets, Philadelphia Phillies, and Cincinnati Reds. Come the end of the month, the Padres were 3 games under 500 at 51-54, and yet they still found themselves in a tie atop their division.
Pathetic.
At this juncture, it was a miracle that the Padres were even still in contention. With no significant moves made at the trade deadline, the team had the 3rd lowest number of runs scored of any MLB team at the end of July. Their starting rotation's cumulative ERA of 4.68 was bottom 10 in the league. What really was keeping this team afloat was their bullpen, a group that posted the 2nd best ERA of any NL team at the end of 4 months of play. Trevor Hoffman logically led the way and would go on to finish 2005 with the 4th most saves of any reliever that year. Middle reliever Clay Hensley finished 2005 with the 4th best ERA of any pitcher with at least 40 innings, and setup man Scott Linebrink was not trailing far behind at number 7 overall, also sitting under that 2.0 mark. If the lineup could just patch things together, and if someone could contribute alongside Jake Peavy, then this team could stand a fighting chance in the final 2 months of the season, pitted against one of the worst divisions in baseball history. Gotta quickly interrupt today's video to thank today's sponsor, which is the DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, you can use my promo code OLIVE, bet $5 on any wager, and win $250 in bonus bets, plus get 1 free month trial of NFL Plus Premium. If football's not your thing, there's still plenty of baseball to bet on with the postseason right around the corner, and if you're interested in fantasy betting, you can join me and all my other John Boy Media coworkers in our DFS Fantasy League every Tuesday, where you set a lineup and have a chance to win cash prizes. All of this and more is happening on the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now, so download it, it's free and easy to use, and use my promo code OLIVE when you get started. Thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the action. The Padres responded in kind, winning 6 of their first 7 games to start August, climbing back over 500 once again. And then as soon as they got on the right course, they lost 5 of their next 6 games. But then they won 2 more games, and then they lost 2 more games. But then they won 2 more games, and then they lost 2 more games. August came and went, and the Padres were yet again a 500 team. I'm getting sick of saying that. But despite their mediocrity, their record was still somehow good enough for the top spot in the NL West division with a 5.5 game lead. Just to look at other teams and what they were doing at this point in time, the 69 and 63 Mets were 6 games over 500 and 4th place in their division. And even in this home stretch of the season where the Padres could finally pull away with teams underperforming, they just kind of floated on by in September. They went 11-11, aka a 500 record, in the first 3 weeks of September. A big reason for them staying in front was Jake Peavy, who took center stage and stepped up massively in the final 2 months of the year. Jake Peavy pitched to a 2.14 ERA in the final 10 starts of his season, 6th best among starting pitchers in this window, which also included a pair of complete game shutouts. With only 6 games left in the 2005 regular season, we came inches away from a losing team winning a division in MLB for the first and only time in history. Luckily for the Padres, and luckily for all of us, they avoided the wrong kind of history. They clinched the division with a 9-1 victory over the Giants, making them the first MLB team to clinch a postseason berth while at a 500 record. They'd go on to win 3 of their last 4 games to finish the bare minimum amount of games over 500. So statistically, the 2005 Padres are the worst team in MLB history to clinch a postseason spot. Their Pythagorean record, or their expected win-loss total based on team run differential, was 77 and 85, thanks to them allowing 42 more runs to score than they scored themselves. But mediocrity, underperformance, throw it out the window, baby. We clinched the division, we're celebrating. Maybe a little bit too hard. 2 big things happened on the night that the Padres clinched the division. For starters, Jake Peavy was jumping up and down in jubilation alongside his teammates when he felt a sharp twinge in his chest. After all the festivities were over and done with, and even after his Game 1 start in the division series that came later, Jake Peavy discovered that he had broken a rib during the celebration. Outside of the Padres' best player having his season end at the worst time possible, the team also almost went into the playoffs with a blind manager. In the clubhouse, backup catcher Robert Fick doused his manager Bruce Bochy with alcohol, which is a time-honored tradition in clinching celebrations, except you usually do it with champagne, not tequila. Bochy remarked that his eyes were burning and that he had thought Fick threw acid on him. So if you couldn't guess already, these Padres, now with a broken rib ace and a near-blinded manager, were supremely overmatched in their upcoming playoff series. In the 2005 NLDS against the St. Louis Cardinals, the reigning National League champions mind you, the Padres never held a lead in any of the games. Their most dependable starter, Jake Peavy, got shelled in 3 innings in Game 1, unknowingly pitching with a broken rib. St. Louis would go on to score 21 runs in 3 games, resulting in a sweep, delivering the Padres an unceremonious end to an unremarkable season. The Padres won 2 more regular season games than they lost, but when they were swept in the playoffs, they officially ended the season with an 82 and 83 record, becoming the only playoff team to lose more games than they won cumulatively on the season. And that spelled the end for the 2005 Padres. The Padres of old are not the Padres we know now. With bright new uniforms and electric young players, the modern-day Padres are as close as they have ever been to hoisting a World Series trophy, leaving the mid-2000s teams who thrived from weak competition in the dust. Speaking of weak competition, the NL West division is nothing to scoff at these days, regularly appearing as the most difficult division to compete in among the 6 in MLB. It's a fun time to be a West Coast baseball fan, but for those that are, never forget where you came from, because just 2 decades ago, we all bore witness to the wrong kind of history nearly being made. And that'll do it for me on this video, and I'll see you guys next time.